Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash, I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today I'm throwing an extra video in this week because I've had a question from a viewer which I'm very happy to answer off cuff, and I'll tell you just what that question is, which comes in from Patrick. And don't forget, if you have a question for me on men's style or anything of that nature, drop it in via email or even in the comments. I'll try and get back to you. As I'm going to get back to Patrick today, who has said, I would like to buy myself a new Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic watch. Since it has a price of £715, I first wanted to find out if you can tell me if it would be a good purchase. Well, I think the Hamilton Khaki collection entirely has been one of their strongest sellers. Undoubtedly it is their strongest selling watch, and it's one which many people think of when they initially think field watch genre. I know I did. Earlier this year, when I sold my Rolex Explorer because I wanted to make some room in my collection to bring something else in, I wanted to free some money up, to be honest, and that Explorer left my life. And it left a field watch sized hole in my watch collection. My first thought was actually the very watch that we're talking about today, the Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic. So I went to my local shopping mall about 20 miles away, and I actually tried one on, and I found it a very impressive watch. Now, I didn't buy it because I had a few things going on and I didn't want to part with that sort of money without giving it a lot of thought, exactly the same way as Patrick has. But it's definitely in my possible selection. So let's get to answering Patrick's question. First of all, let's think about Hamilton, because when you're buying a watch, I would say over £500, this one's 715, around about €825, you're buying into the ethos of the company. I want to know more about the heritage and the origins. And Hamilton have good heritage entirely. They were originally an American company. They used to make field style watches for railroad companies. They used to sell them to the general public. And then they went down the path, I think during the Second World War, of making watches for the American military. So they stopped, I believe, selling to the general public. And eventually, I think it was 1969, they ended up going over to Switzerland. So they left or stopped being an American company, then became a Swiss company, and they got rolled up into the Swatch Group, which owns, a huge number of companies, wristwatch companies. And Hamilton occupies quite a vaulted place within the Swatch brand, I think. They make some pretty decent watches. So the watch we're talking about today, the Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic, part of the Khaki collection. There are a few watches in that collection. You've got the Khaki Field Mechanical, which looks somewhat different, but it has a movement which requires daily winding, whereas the automatic obviously winds itself by way of a weighted rotor which winds up a spring in the back as you move your wrist. So it's a great little watch, and it is a classic looking field watch as well. So when we look at the watch, as I am here on my diagram, what we see is a black dial. They do come in a silver dial as well, but I think most people will go for black. We have numerical numbers from 1 to 12 on the dial, and there's a lot going on there as well. You've got a 24-hour track, you've got a second track, you've got a date window at the 3 o'clock position. There's a lot going on. You've got syringe hands, and you've got a second hand which is a very noticeable red tip, which brings the only element of colour to what is otherwise quite a monochrome dial. But I like it. I really do like this dial. It does what it's meant to do. It's easily identifiable. There's lots of luminescence. You can see it in low light conditions. That's what a field watch is all about. It's about practicality. Now, when we're looking at this watch to buy it, two choices in case size. 42mm or 38. The 42 is quite large, if I'm being honest. When I went to the mall, I tried on the 38mm, and it is that Goldilocks size which will look great on almost everybody's wrist. I, for reference, have a 6.5-inch wrist. Right now I'm wearing a 36mm Rolex Datejust, which fits me perfectly, but that 38mm, oh, it was exquisite fit. It looked great. comes on a number of different bracelets. You can have the stainless steel bracelet, which is the £715 option. But for a little less money, you can actually get, I believe there's a leather strap and a fabric strap as well. But for me, I would always go for the stainless steel, add the leather or fabric at a later point. That's where the value proposition lies. Now the stainless steel strap, entirely adequate, good strap, doesn't have micro adjustment, but you're not going to expect that for around about 700 quid if we're being honest. We have an ETA derived movement, which Hamilton will call it, I think they call it their H10 automatic movement. It gives us 80 hours of power reserve. So a very capable little movement in this watch indeed. 100 meters of water resistance with a non-screw down crown. But don't worry about that screw down crown. It does not affect the water resistance in any way. I've told you about the dimensions. What I didn't tell you is that the case is about 11 millimeters thick. So it's not a big chunky watch. It's something which, you know, let's not say it disappears on the wrist. You know you've got something, you know, quite functional and quite chunky, but not oversized in any way, shape or form. This is a lovely little, proportions to this watch. We have an exhibition caseback, so a piece of glass on the back, so we can look in upon that ETA movement. I wouldn't say it's particularly special movement, but it's a bomb-proof, tough ETA movement. That's what you want to know. It's going to tick on, it's going to keep good time. And it has a domed sapphire crystal. So you're getting all the things that you would expect. And I think there's a little bit of polishing around the bezel on the automatic, which isn't present on the mechanical. I think it gives this watch more of a refined appearance than the winding version, the mechanical version. So yeah, a very, very nice piece. And when I tried it on, I gotta be honest, I was very taken by it. Very taken indeed. Okay, so I'm going to keep this fairly swift. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I considered buying the watch and 2 reasons which kind of put me off buying the watch as well. And I'm going to give you a few options. If this isn't the one for you, but you're looking for a similar aesthetic, there's a few others which you could consider. Now, the first reason why I was considering buying it was the heritage and its appearance. It's nice to have a couple of different sizes. It's nice to have a watch which so clearly is functionally capable. I also liked its heritage as well. Hamilton has got a good, solid reputation. It's known for making military watches in the past, and the watches which are made today are well regarded. You know you're buying something which is going to get the job done. And it's a nice thing to have that heritage and history behind it as well. I think it is the embodiment of the field watch. I mean, if you took a number of people who were very interested in wristwatches and said to them, name for me a field watch, I would say the large proportion of them would say, yeah, definitely Hamilton, the Hamilton Khaki. It's one which comes to mind immediately as a field leader. And as I say, the embodiment of the field watch style when it comes to men's watches. And if that's something you're interested in, if you want to buy a field watch, that's definitely the path you want to look down. The other thing you have to remember, most importantly for many, it's the performance. This is a watch which gets the job done. It's got a bomb-proof, they call it the H10 Hamilton movement, but it is in effect an ETA-derived movement, which we know is solid, long-lasting, good-performing, accurate movement. So you're not going to have to worry about that. You've also got sapphire crystal, so it can take a knock and a bang. It's got 100 meters of water resistance, which is the minimum I would expect for a field watch. And you've got that, sort of rolling it in with that movement, 80 hours of power reserve. So a watch you can take off your wrist, leave on the sideboard for a day or two, pick it up, it's still going to be ticking. And with that stainless steel case and bracelet, it looks the part as well. And finally, value for money. So we're talking 715 British pounds at the point of recording, which equals about 825 euro, which means for the price point, I think this is a very approachable watch. What you're getting for your money is something which is going to do the job for you. And, you know, for many people, that's going to be the big decider. It's not too expensive. it's a really good little watch for the price. So those were the 3 reasons why I strongly considered buying this watch, and to be honest, I still am. I haven't ruled it out at all. But there were a couple of reasons which stopped me. The first of which was perhaps counter to what I've just said. It has a very fixed aesthetic appearance. It is 100% a field watch. There's no 2 ways about it. Now, the watch which I left my collection, the Rolex Explorer, yes, it was a field watch. It was always designed as Rolex's field piece. However, because it was very simple, the dial very basic and plain, didn't have, seconds on there, didn't have 24-hour numerals on there, quite simplistic, didn't have a date window. It's a watch which carried over into being able to be worn maybe with your suit quite easily. With a watch which is so abundantly obviously a field watch, does it limit its wearability in other elements of your life? For me, perhaps it does. Now, it's fine if you're curating a collection of watches and you're happy to have a watch which is purely going to be a field watch. It's not going to be a watch which you wear with your suit. It's not going to be a watch you wear in other situations. That's absolutely great if you're one of those people who swaps your watches over depending on your life situation. But if you're after buying one watch, this one is very obviously a field watch. So you've got to love that aesthetic if that's what you're going for. The other reason why I haven't purchased this watch so far is because of the options which are available by other manufacturers, which also make me very interested in those. So to give you an idea, the other watch which I was looking at, which is only £170, so a lot cheaper, was the Citizen Garrison Eco Drive. Now, this is a solar powered movement. It's an absolute, simple watch. You never have to mess around with it because of that Eco Drive. You put it on your wrist and off you go. It's a very similar performing watch. The downside, 42 millimeters. So a little bit of a problem there. It's a little bit too large, but aesthetically very, very similar. The other alternative for me would have been the Seiko 5. So the 36 millimeter case, automatic movement, not quite as good a performer, £260, but you've got your 41 hours of power reserve, so less than about half the power reserve of our Hamilton Khaki, and it also has Hardlex crystal, so it doesn't have sapphire crystal, so it's not going to be so robust. But then for £260, what can you expect? And for £155, the Timex Expedition Field Post, 36 millimeter, solar powered. A lovely little watch, which actually gives you a very similar aesthetic for a lot less money. So, Patrick, there we go. Those were my thoughts on this delightful, very refined, very attractive, quintessential field watch. I think for £750, it's a watch which you can buy and in absolute confidence that what you're getting is a great little field watch. It's going to perform well for you. It can handle the situations you're going to put it up to, and it's going to come through with flying colours. And it's not terribly expensive either, so there's many, many positives there. Some of the alternatives I've suggested, they don't come up to the same level as the Khaki field automatic, but then they were a lot less price. Depends what you're looking for. There we go, folks. That was as quick as I could make it. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, like it, subscribe for more. Don't forget, send me a question. I'll try and respond with a video if I possibly can. Drop it into the comment section. Drop me an email. If you'd like to support the channel, you could buy me a coffee, one-off thing, or for a very small amount each month, you could actually become a member of my Patreon group, where you will get extra videos each week and you will have a personal dialogue with me. So, links to that in the show notes below. Until the next time, whatever you're wearing, wear it with pride and passion, and I'll see you again very soon.